There's a hidden part of you that's been responsible for many of the decisions and actions you've been taking today. The self-sabotage, the feelings of holding yourself back, feeling like there's an invisible force working against you. This is known as the womb of your reality or your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind can either be a helpful ally in identifying opportunities and ideas that will serve you, or you can be its slave, having it govern many of the unhealthy desires and actions that you've been taking in your life. In this video, we're going to talk about 2 techniques that I've been using with great success to clear out these negative programmings, you could say, in my subconscious mind. And there's a misconception in the spiritual community that thinking positive thoughts or believing in positive beliefs is enough to help you with identity shifting and moving towards a different reality. The truth couldn't be more false. And in doing these 2 techniques, you'll actually be able to clear out some of these negative beliefs, negative limiting factors that are holding you back, so you can begin to live that version of you that you've always desired. So with that being said, let's get right into the video. Apostle Paul in the book of Galatians says, "You shall reap what you sow." And this is said multiple times throughout the Bible. This literally is referencing the subconscious mind. How we have this conscious ability as conscious creators to use this smaller part of our mind to influence this larger storehouse of all the ideas, thoughts, feelings that even came before us, that are programmed into us at a soul level. And the thing is, when we learn to communicate with this side of ourselves, when we learn to interface with it, we become the masters of our own reality. We become the creators of our own reality. And you can begin to create just as you were created. Now, if you're like me, a few years ago, even a few months ago, your subconscious mind was essentially a garbage receptacle for all the negative feelings, thoughts, and ideas that you had accumulated over your lifetime. These just sit and fester there until they eventually manifest as negative physicalities in your reality. So how do we deal with these negative things? Let's get right into it with the first technique. And you can't do the second technique without the first, by the way. The first technique is this idea of negation. Negation basically means to seek out these negative beliefs that are holding you back, realizing when you get triggered, following that trigger back to the limiting belief, the idea, the event that initially caused that to happen. Find the root of the problem and begin to recognize that as false, recognize as being incongruent to your current version of reality. This is akin to sort of cleaning out the soil in your garden. I just started gardening this year. We planted tomatoes, planted a few other peppers, which I'm trying out for the second time now. And before I went to the garden to actually plant any of these things, I combed through the soil. I picked out all the little weeds. I picked out all the little things, the impurities in the soil that I accumulated since last year. And in cleaning that soil out and then fertilizing it, I provided a prime ground for these seeds to sprout. Right now, these plants are growing nice and healthy. Now, there's 3 parts to negation that we're going to talk about here. And remember, negation inherently means this sort of mental destructive process. It's a process of destroying these old thoughts, limiting beliefs, and feelings that no longer serve you and are no longer in line with who you are now. It is saying this thing is no longer my identity. This thing is no longer who I am. And there's 3 parts to this process, 3 tools that you can use in the process of negation. The first one is confession, forgiveness, and surrender. These 3 things will help you massively along this process. And I'll just quickly touch on each of these 3 things. Confession is this idea of admitting to yourself realistically what needs to be done. And this takes a bit of willpower, right? If you have a problem with drinking, if you have this idea that maybe you smoke too much weed, like I did many months ago, it's this process of admitting to yourself and confessing that indeed you're engaging with this process. You, as a person, are using your will to engage with this process. And this begins for you to identify where your willpower is going. The second part is surrender. Surrender, I just made a whole video on surrender, but there's 3 levels to surrender. And there's different aspects of reality you must surrender to begin to become one with your inner self. To make the outside like the inside, and to make the inside like the outside. Make the conscious mind interface completely with the subconscious mind. Make the subconscious mind be a helpful ally to your conscious mind. This relationship building with yourself. And the other one is forgiveness. You're holding on to past events. You're holding on to negative energy that you've got from people, that you've exchanged with people from the past. It's important to find ways to forgive them, to find ways to forgive yourself. And in doing that, you'll begin to let these negative energies, these negative thought forms go. And the last thing I'll say here is your thoughts are not yours. You must stand guard at the door of your mind. We get bombarded with thousands, even millions of thoughts every day in this society that we live in, where there's social media, where there's ads playing everywhere, where people themselves have turned into ads advertising their ideologies. It can be easy for these ideas to influence us and become part of us, become embedded in our subconscious mind. Remember, whatever thoughts and feelings you're exposed to over long enough time that you accept, consciously or subconsciously, become impressed upon your subconscious mind, the womb of your reality. And you might be programmed without even realizing it. So onwards, we've dealt with the negative thoughts. We've heavily engaged with this process of negation. What's next? The next process here is realization. And this is the part where the spiritual community, people who are into esoteric things, they do get right. But unfortunately, just like with my garden, if I was to go plant seeds in there with all the weeds and all the crap that was in there from last year, these seeds may not even survive. Many of them will die. And so when you're planting even pure seeds, when you have positive intentions, when you realize you want to make this identity shift, you're turning a new page in your life. And you're planting these beliefs. If you're planting them in the old soil, the seeds will die. They will struggle to sprout. Or worse, they'll come out in some mutated form which you did not intend. So this process of realization is to actually think as many positive thoughts as possible. And this is the hardest thing to possibly do when you really think about it. And there's a few techniques I can give you here that will really help you in this process. But something Mike Tyson said, regardless of what you thought about that fight, whether you even like fighting, any of that, Mike Tyson is a great example of somebody who's gone against the odds, who has actually beat the odds against him. And I made a video earlier on in this channel that I'll plug up here. But he's someone who says, you must be the destroyer of doubt. I, as a 50-something-year-old man, could not step in a ring and box after being out of the game for so long unless I had this mentality. You must be the destroyer of doubt. No matter what happens in your life, you have a North Star vision. You have that thing you hold for yourself. You must at all costs move towards that thing and not let anything hold you back, including yourself, because you can be your worst enemy. Another aspect that might help you here is this idea of gratitude. In realizing the abundance that you already have, you'll open the door for more abundance because you don't need to try to be something. There's a North Star vision, but there's the idea of who that person is. You can start being that today. Material possessions are not a reflection of who you are not a reflection of who you want to be. You can be that person now regardless of the material possessions. And the universe will recognize this. Because if you're not even tending to the small garden you have today, how can you expect a much bigger garden with more responsibilities, right? You must be responsible for the garden you have today and begin purifying the soil that you're in, that's around you, no matter what your material existence reflects. And there's a lesson that I learned from a hedge fund manager who I spent a couple summers working with, who actually said he learned everything he learned about success came from this Japanese billionaire who's no longer with us now. But this guy's secret to success was that he would express gratitude 1,000 times a day. And I don't mean that like some metaphor. He literally, at least 1,000 times a day, expressed his gratitude for something. And what he would do is he would like wake up in the morning, and the first thing he would think is like, I'm grateful to wake up on this comfortable bed. Then he would stand, he'd get off the bed, he would stand. I'm grateful to be standing on this ground. I'm grateful to have this roof over my head. And he'd go about his day doing this. And he attributes this habit of being immersed in gratitude, not just being grateful for 5 things every day, but being totally immersed in his existence and being grateful for everything he has, opened the door for more abundance, making him one of the wealthiest men in Japan for quite a period of time. So remember, the process of realization comes after the process of negation, because if you're trying to plant these seeds, these beliefs, beliefs kind of run through grooves in the snow. If you're trying to run positive beliefs through old grooves in the snow, it's not going to work out for you. You must bury those old grooves and make the snow nice and flat, so you can make new grooves and create new behavior patterns. And this could be why you're facing resistance. This could be why you're procrastinating. This could be why you face anxiety as you keep moving forward to this new version of you. And make sure you subscribe to the channel, because I got another video coming for a technique that I feel like is even greater than this. When you use all these 3 things together, it's an incredibly powerful way to shift your identity. So subscribe if you subscribe if you have not already. Until next time, peace.